Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. Oh my goodness. It's Tuesday again, Ramin. I'm
Good
Dr. Laurie
morning.
Davis, your host for the Today Show this morning. And on Tuesdays, of course, it's always about the news, money, whatever else we want to talk about. Good morning, Dr. Ramin. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Very well, thank you so much. It's good to be back. It's it's nice to know it's Tuesday, so we can do our show, which is
Right.
my favorite part of the week. So
And you have a big holiday coming up in America this week. I'm
that's
watching the
right.
news and I'm seeing the traffic. Holy
Yes,
cow.
it is the most traveled day. Well, I mean, 2 days of the year. There will be lots of people taking planes, trains, uh, and cars. So like
Hmm.
that movie. So that's what it is. It's
Right.
very busy.
Well, I heard where on the news that 6 million Californians will be traveling in the next 2 days. 6 million of you. No wonder there's traffic.
Yeah. No, it's hopefully the weather will accommodate not here, but around northeast and northwest and
Hmm.
problems. But it
Hmm.
is. It's a huge traveling day. I'm excited. My daughter is coming
Oh,
later
great.
tonight from New York. So although it's very 3 to 4 days. It's very short, but still, we are
Yeah.
grateful for that. It's a
Yes.
good time to
Yes.
be together. So, yeah, she's
Right on.
excited. Yeah, so,
Good.
yeah.
So, do you do anything that's you've been doing for a long time? Traditionally, what do you do? The family? You have turkey. What do you have to eat?
Yeah, so it's really good excuse to eat a lot. Nowadays, it's not as the way it's to be. But when I was exposed to that, I was in Connecticut, and I didn't know anything about that. So I would be invited to my friend's house, and my God, from morning till night, that's all you did. And in New
Hmm.
England, of course, the pies. Oh, and they have these apple pies and pumpkin pies, and I mean, just absolutely wonderful. And you're young, so we would do that. Go outside in the 10, 15 degree weather, play football. Uh, Soccer was okay, but football was the thing. You have
Hmm.
to play flag football, touch football, and then freezing cold, and you loved it. You'd be hungry, come back home, and that's all you did. Nowadays it's a little different. People are a little more conscious. um, but that was my favorite holiday because for 20 years it was over our house, and we have this huge table we had.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
But last 2 or 3 years we've been going to our family's houses, and this time we're gonna be in over the house of one of our in-laws' house that we haven't been in like 8 years. So
Oh,
it will be
wow.
good to have everyone together. So it is fun. And Kimmy's gonna see a friend of hers that she hasn't seen since they were like 9 or 10. And she has graduated from college, works in DC, and it's fun. It's gonna be great. So anyway,
Hmm.
that's a big day. So the bottom line is we'll be eating a lot and
Yes,
watch
that's right.
American football rather than playing the football. But
There
anyway,
we go. And Sylvia says, good morning to us. And a little typo, but I think it was, maybe highly spiritually driven. She says,
yeah,
a God morning,
that's
Dr. Lori and Dr.
actually
Reed.
that's how I started. Good morning comes from God morning. So
That's
good,
right.
good
That's right.
morning,
Thank you,
Sylvia.
Sylvia.
That's the root. Yeah.
Right on. So today, there's a lot of interest and talk. I mean, I've heard about Bitcoin for a few years now, but I believe that's what we're sharing today. And you're going to share some information about the ups and downs and the all arounds when it comes to investing and so on. But maybe to get started, you might explain what is Bitcoin, because a lot of people, they hear the word, but they don't really understand what is that. And so maybe that would be a good place for us to start. And then I know we're going to have some viewers today who have actually
Mhm.
invested in Bitcoin and who know the markets and whatever. But over to you. if I'm not interviewing you today, but I am. What is Bitcoin, Ramin?
Yes. Awesome. Okay. Well, let me start with this that I personally came into getting to know what Bitcoin and what the cryptocurrencies are in, believe it or not, it was 2011. And by then, I had a friend. He's a famous trader, actually. So, he's in Texas. And he said, Ramin, there's just something interesting going on. And what do you think? And he started investing. I'm not sure, it was like about 1,000 coins or so at that time he got in. And then I got a piece of that. It was very difficult to get into Bitcoin. There was, got to have something called wallet and the security and all that. I said, you set it up and I'll play a little bit. So he, believe it or not, I got to talk to him to see if he still has it. He bought I think 1,000. I'm not sure how many, but I believe it was minimum of 1,000. That Bitcoin was $32 a coin. That's $32 at 2011. Just a couple of days ago, on Friday, Bitcoin hit $100,000. So his $30,000 investment, when you think about it, it's $100 million today. 100 million. So I don't know if he still has his money or not, but that's the power of how this investment works. So um, I actually did a research paper in 2012 about Bitcoin. So at that time, many people were not familiar. Only people who are technology oriented, they were really looking at alternative investments. They were looking at it. So it was not a common thing till like a few years ago when some people really made a lot of money. And, in 2022, 2023, we hit 2017. As a matter of fact, I remember precisely when it was like at 7 or 8,000, and our objective was about 20,000. And my goal was it will hit it in 6 months. Within 2 weeks, after from 8,000 went to 20,000, December of 2017, and then it just dropped like a rock. And we will discuss that. I will like to talk about a little about history, what it is, and like you said, and what is the potential of it. What are some of advantages of investing in digital currencies? What are some of the um, disadvantages that you have to be aware of? Because when things are great, everybody loves it. When something goes wrong, all of a sudden, it's like a bomb exploded. Everybody wants to avoid it. So there should be a good understanding of that. So, um, for the ages, what has happened, it is there is some attempt to find out that is there anything that we could have transparency? Could we have alternative currencies? And as a matter of fact, when you think of the euro, which started, uh, actually, economic unions happened in 1950. Since then, after the World War II, we did have a Brentwood Agreement. Actually, it was right almost before even end of the World War II. The leaders of you know uh, allies, they decided to meet in Brentwood, New Hampshire in 1944, and they decided to have the dollar as the currency of choice, as a reserved currency. So since then, the dollar has been the leader. If you go back in a history, we will see that the Spanish peso, we've had the guilder, Netherlands guilder, depending on who is in power. And the last one, as far as currencies goes, it was British sterling till 1915, 18 was the peak, but by 1940s, it was completely really was out of power. So, and we've had these cryptocurrencies have taken over. So before even I go to the reason why Bitcoin came into the picture, what happened with Euro, we have to understand, first of all, is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, are they really currencies? What are they? Are they commodities? We have to define that. And then I will share a little story with how it started. So in order to do that, we have to define what is money. Because really, when we think about crypto, a lot of people think, well, okay, I'm going to invest in it. But the original idea of that was an alternative to central bank oriented, we call them fiat money, printed money, an alternative with transparency. And basically, that was the goal for the future generations. So, but we have to understand, how do we define money? So once we understand that, then we will see, is gold considered currency? Is cocoa beans considered currency? Is shells considered currency? Is it dollar? Is it, um, we used to have Greek drachma, or basically, is it Argentine peseto? So, peso. So I give you some of the characteristics of money. Then we can go and look at the history of Bitcoin and some of the advantages. So for our audience, we have to define our own mind how many of these boxes, cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, which is not, by the way, the largest, but it's the most established cryptocurrency. So, so rule number one, the definition characteristic of money is they have to be durable. That means they have to have a duration. It cannot be for like 2 days. They have to have something that they can last. So the way things are looking, well, does cryptocurrencies do that? Bitcoin, it shows that yes, it is has a lasting effect. So it could be considered a currency. The second thing is portability. Can I take that money and go to another place, another country? And in that situation, when you think about dollar or currencies, well, that's other currencies like euro, that works. Even gold could be that. We will see if, and then crypto is really is digital, so it's applicable. The divisibility, that means, can I have different units? Do I have to have like $1 is $1? So if I want to buy something, can I divide it? Can I do that? Basically, dollar, now we have the cents, and we got the same Canadian dollar. So divisibility is important. The other thing is that recognizability. Are they recognized? Can I take gold and go to South America, go to the Middle East? People say, well, this has value. Does dollar have value? Or if I take a cocoa beans right now, would they, anyone will accept it. So that has to be recognized and accepted in a way of that it is a solid idea. And now you can see that Bitcoin is being recognized more and more. And we will talk about like countries now actually doing that. And I will talk about the history, for instance, about recognizability, and the other part is acceptability. So it has to be recognizable, it has to be acceptable. So again, in 2021, the government of El Salvador, what they did, they said that uh, cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, it is an acceptable currency as a reserve currency in the government of El Salvador, because a lot of those countries, dollar is the only one. So that has been acceptable. In Iran, what has happened in 2020, they started importing things, almost $19 million a month, using the cryptocurrency to pay for that. As a matter of fact, in 2022, it became completely legal. They did add a bill in their legislation. So in 2022, we have uh, imports. The first thing was like a $10 million of cars. So there's a positive and negative. We will discuss that. So what it is. And then the scarcity. It has to be scarce. You cannot have abundant of things. I mentioned about seashells are everywhere in Well, it has to be scarce. It has to be a value. And I will talk about what I mean by scarcity. And the last but not least, it has to be uniform. You can't, dollar here shouldn't be different than dollar in another country. It has to be uniform. So,
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
going back to the history, as I mentioned, euro started this common currency acceptable, and in 1999, finally it became as a currency. So before that, if you recall, you go to Europe, you go to Italy, it's Italian lira. You go to Germany, it's Deutsche Mark, and then France is a franc. So basically, now they had that euro. Believe it or not, United States, there was this in 1990s. What we had a NAFTA, which was a North
Yes.
American free trade, which was Canada. We had Mexico and United States. So that was a free trade, and basically there was a talk in 1999 toward President Clinton's hand. They were thinking, okay, euro has euro. Why don't we have Amero, which will be a common currency for Canada, Mexico, and United States. So there was this talks going on. So for a long time, there have been a talk about having a common currency which is standardized. So the dollar has been the power currency. A lot of petrodollars, obviously the petroleum in 1970s, when President Nixon went to the Middle East, said, you have to went to Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, said, we will help you as long as you buy and sell everything in dollars. So that's the petrodollar. But there has been some rebellion. So what digital currency is comes from a group of people who were sick and tired of really the central banks dictating, and we're tired of how you can manipulate the money, such as, for instance, um, the printing money. So in the United States, we have deficits, things like, oh, let's print money. In other countries, when we had ruble crisis, what they did, they owed a lot of money. So what did they do? They devalued ruble. Or in Argentina in 2002, or in Turkey, the same time. They so if I owe you money, for instance, I said, oh, Laurie, I owe you $1 million in Canadian dollar, just not Canada. It's a pretty established, But what I said, oh, okay, $1 million. It happens a lot of developing countries. I say, Laurie, I'm going to pay you $1 million, and in 5 years or 4 years. I said, okay, great. And what happens is, by then, $1 million is only worth 10,000 or 100,000. So I still give you 1 million. So the governments will manipulate. They will bring their value of their currency, and then they pay you back your loan. And once they did that, and they had these gold backup, the reserve, so they kept the value, but they kind of tricked. So that's manipulation going on. So in 2008, we are not sure where the group is, but there was a group or a person called Satoshi Nakamoto came with this idea, and as a group of engineers saying that they're sick and tired of these manipulations, of these money, the fiat money. So they came up with something in a way of a digital coding. They put he actually, there was a paper done in early 2000 that was a thesis, and said, why don't we come with something that it has a transparency, what we do, there's a code, so whoever has access to that exactly knows where the money is, what is happening. And let's say you and I, and let's say Kathy, three of us, we said, you know what, we're going to have our own digital currency. So if I want to buy something from you, I will exchange that with you. So I don't have to worry about giving you the dollar. So each one of us has a certain amount, and basically if I gave you, so I have three, you have three, Kathy has three. What I do is, if I got something from you, I gave you one. So on the ledger, it shows that now you have four, I have two, but you, all of us can see that. We can see where the money is going. And this digital, which was a code basically, is that's where the mother of blockchain. And blockchain is in accounting is a ledger that it gives everyone accessibility, transparency. They know exactly where everything is going, where everything exchanged. So if I want to buy something, the whole group knows. So now the group maybe is three people. We start our own, then somebody has 100 people, has 1,000,000 members, but all the members, they have this accessibility, but also the privacy. And that's another thing. In a way of privacy, what I mean by that is they the group knows exactly what is happening. So they did not trust the government to have this power over them to see what they are doing. They want to have something that they will have the control of it, but also everyone knew what's going on. So that's how this cryptocurrency idea came. It was a very difficult, it was a code. So what they started to do, Satoshi suggested, you can create a code, and based on that, so he started like a Bitcoin. And in Bitcoin, it's something that if you come up with a code, you're rewarded something in Bitcoin, which has a value. And at that time, they will receive 50 coins. And this is in 2009. That's when the first time, and it has a value at that time so much. The beauty of the Bitcoin is he made sure that it is not an unlimited supply. So every 4 years, he said, if you're creating this coin, which is these engineers, these minds, they sit down and they work really hard to come out. Sometimes there's 180 million codes. I mean, it's huge codes. So it's a code really that allows you to receive rewards, like we call it coin. It's not actual coin, but it is a reward, which is a digital coin. And basically, it allows you to do transactions. The first real transaction, believe it or not, using the Bitcoin was an engineer. He was a Lazo Hanisits, and he bought 2 Papa John's pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins, because he had access to all, because he was rewarded a lot of coins. He paid for those 2 pizzas. As of Friday, those 2 pizzas would have cost $1 billion. So that's probably the most expensive pizza that has ever been spent money on. So that's how this idea of the currency, digital currency, happened, which has no borders. As a matter of fact, I remember in 2016, somebody from, I believe in China, bought a property in Brazil and paid coins to buy that real estate. So basically, it's an exchange of goods using this digital currency. I mean, right now, for instance, you use your credit card. Do you exchange money? No, it's a promise. It's a code. There's a numbers on your credit cards. You give that number, or you scan it, and then your bank gets a record of it. So it's your bank as a central figure. So your bank knows. With digital currency, it's your group. So everybody has that, but you don't have a central bank knowing what you're doing. So when you buy something with your credit card, basically, you're not paying any cash. You're making a promise that you're going to pay that bank back, but you receive your goods at that time. So I would say you should think of cryptocurrency similar to digital. And that's what this blockchain technology is amazing, because you can also use medical records and all other things using blockchain. Is a lasting thing because it allows the access to information in many different ways. So basically, again, initially it was very difficult to invest in Bitcoins in a way of the way it was set up. So if I wanted to have access, so there will be these codes have been written. Now the Bitcoins have been available. Now, if I want to have access to that, then I have to pay a price for that so I can buy it. But in order to have, I have to have a digital wallet, it's called, which has to be protected. So I could use that would be my wallet. It's like your credit card. You have a $10,000 limit. Well, you have my coins. And with those coins, I can go and purchase whatever, whoever accepts it. The problem was not many places were accepting in like 2012. So it was more of an alternative investment at that time. So, so it was not really that popular then, but now, of course, you hear a lot of stories, especially since you know uh, President elect Trump has been big on it this year, which he was really against it up to a few years ago. And then Elon Musk has been big on it. He's also offered, we can buy cars, with Tesla. He invested himself a lot in cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. So it has been on a technological side, has been acceptance. In the public side, there's still a lot of caution because not familiarity, but also, again, it was pretty difficult. A few years ago, the futures market allowed you to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is another coin. Um, but there are tens and thousands of, like anything else, digital currencies. Because if I write a code, I can start my own. I said, well, I have a digital coin. You can play games with my coins. Another thing, Laurie, Dr. Laurie, you can think about is when you go to gambling, they give you these, they call it jetons. You can actually use that as alternative. You can use that money in the casino. You cannot go outside, buy food with that, but inside the casino, you can do that. So there are tokens. So there's also another way of you think about Bitcoin. It's almost like a token, except now it's becoming very, very acceptable around the globe. So why should you consider? What are some of the advantages of investing in cryptocurrencies? Now, Bitcoin is the most known, but believe it or not, the most popular. There's a Dogecoin, there's Toshi, we have Ethereum, we have um, Bitcoin actually split. We have Coinbase's Cash. It's like there are many different Tetra. There are so many different top coins out there. So depending on who's issuing that. But Bitcoin is the most acceptable right now. It's the most popular in a way of acceptance, but it's not the largest. As I mentioned, Dogecoin is the largest. And so these are some of the ideas I will give to our audience is number one reason you want to consider investing in Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency, but especially Bitcoin the way it is now. As I mentioned, it has a high growth potential. Imagine $32 in 2011, it just hit $100,000. So you do have a lot of potential as far as return on your money. So that's one, it's the high growth. The other advantage it has is decentralized and it's transparent. It's not US central bank coming and seeing, okay, how much money is going to this bank? Who's spending this? They don't have any control. It is decentral, so nobody has any saying in that. It's the group as a whole they have, and there's a transparency. People know what's going on. The other thing is as far as hedge against inflation. And the reason for that is for the longest time, we think about gold as the main things. Gold is not really pure investments. Gold keeps it, it's a store of value. What you could buy 5,000 years ago, let's say, for the same amount you can buy using the same gold, similar assets. Something that a dollar since 1800, $1 is worth 1 penny. That means it's lost 99% of its value due to inflation. So that's why we call these currencies fiat money, because they don't keep their value. They're paper. They basically don't even have backup. We used to have a gold standard, but since 1971, we don't even back it up. So basically, it's just a paper. Right now, we are trusting the U.S. government because they're not going to default. They're not going to be Argentina or Russia or Turkey to say, "Oh, sorry, we are going to go out of business." So basically, that's the beauty of now Bitcoin could be a good inflation hedge. The reason for that is when Satoshi came, he said, "You know what? We give you rewards, but we will only create so many coins. So there's only 21 million by year 2140 to 2140. That will be only 21 million in the circulation." So whoever has that, I mean, imagine there's only, when you think about gold, there's so much underground and there's other ones above. You'd have a jewelry, you will recycle that. So why gold keeps its value? Because there's a limited supply. Do we have limited supply with fiat money? Like when you have a printing press? No. So that's why the value depreciates. But with gold, and to lesser degree with silver, it keeps the same thing as far as their value, because you really, if you put all the gold around the globe, you probably have a 3 swimming pool to fill it. So basically, that's why the scarcity comes into picture, and or the as far as inflation, because of the scarcity. So something like Bitcoin is limited. So every 4 years, remember I said if I wrote a code, I will get awarded like 50 coins in 2009. In 2012, they said if you wrote the same code to get rewarded, you get 25 coins. In 2016, they said you get 12 and a half. And it went on and on till, basically uh, in 2020, it was 6.25. We just had a halving on April 19th in 2024. So the reason I say that, every 4 years, the supply keeps going down. So it's almost like printing money the other way. So you only can print half of what you could print 4 years ago. You can issue the coin. So there are these machines that they are the ones who do these codings, and it takes a lot of energy. So I don't want to get too complicated, but that's called mining. These machines mine these coins, not literally, they don't give you a coin, it's digital. So that's why it's very difficult to get a concept of digital currency. But I mentioned, I think the easiest way would be thinking of a credit card, because it's a card. It's basically based on trust, but here you actually have a digital coin. So it's like you're assigned a code, you're the only one who has it. So that was before. Now things have become a lot easier, which I will go over that. How do we invest in that? So continuing with some of the advantages of Bitcoin, is also has become very liquid because of acceptance. So now the liquidity plays a big role. So that is liquid. Accessibility, it has become more accessible and basically a lot easier to invest. We didn't have, when I started, it was, God, I have to go through the whole hoops. Then there were very few places they would take, you would give them your ATM number or your card, and every week they would take $100. You could not do more than so much. You had to do it like this systematic. It was like you had to. I didn't do it again. My friend did, but I remember we had to go through all of these. So it was very difficult. Good news is this year, the big changing point was the Security Exchange Commission in the United States allowed to have, we talked about exchange traded funds. It legitimized this digital currency, which everybody has been very skeptic. that allows an investor, retail investor, like for instance, you can go and invest without buying wallet or anything. It has become very liquid now. You can invest $100 and buy an ETF, for instance. It's almost like a stock. We did have futures market. Now you actually have something that allows that exchange. So a lot of companies, institutions can go and invest. There's also exchanges. I mean, the big ones are we have Coinbase, for instance, Binance we used to have, and it's like there's a lot of exchanges you can go and buy and sell like a stock. So you do have exchanges. 99% of those I will be very cautious. We call them like penny stocks. Be careful, but you can actually buy and sell these cryptocurrencies as like a stock. But that having that ETF gave it legitimacy in the United States. And after that, Ethereum, which is a similar idea, came into the picture as well. And now with the President-elect Trump giving it even more legitimacy, saying that it is going to be an accepted reserve currency in a way, and we will do it. You know, the United States will be a forefront of that. That's why you've seen a big move to Bitcoin, for instance. And you have to remember, majority of the people, because of the legality of the United States, they would not invest in the United States. As a matter of fact, they would be in Asia. It's very popular, whether you're in Singapore, in South Korea, in Taiwan, and then in Caribbean. So if you're a few years ago, you had to go to Caribbean to buy, to make sure you can buy it. And then also United States government, when you go to file your taxes in the United States, you have to declare if you own Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies because of the transparency, but also privacy. Nobody knows how much you own. So basically you could have millions of dollars and you don't have to declare. So they put this down. So it kind of scared people. So they will have accounts in Caribbean, for instance. But that's again, that's the liquidity has become available. Accessibility has become a big advantage, and then the adoption, as I said, with the new political system coming in the United States, they're becoming more acceptable. So it's a lot easier to invest in them. As I said, you can trade it, you can invest in it through the ETFs. There are quite a few ETFs came into picture. When I started investing a few years ago, it was really the biggest one it was called Grayscale, and the symbol was GBTC. But they knew they're the only kid in town, so they will charge you 20% premium sometimes. So now there is quite few exchange funds that they are out there, and largest ones like the symbol is IBIT, for instance. You can invest in them. There are iShares companies. The iShares Fidelity has their ETFs. We have ProShares, Bitwise company. So there's a lot of companies that are issuing these funds. So someone like you and I and anyone in our audience, they can go and call their broker, or they go online and start buying and selling because there's that liquidity. So things have gotten a lot easier to invest in these things. So far, these were the positive side of things.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Before you move into the negatives, which I can't wait to hear.
Okay.
There's some thoughts going through my mind to sort of, I think, that would support those of us who are not familiar or who are feeling skeptical or who are unsure. But if you think about it, I'm in the generation where cash was king.
Correct.
In the 50s. And my dad would go to the bank on Friday, get $80,000 in cash, stuff little brown envelopes, and pay the guys on the job site. Then checks. Well, I remember my parents thinking, how can you write a check, put your signature on it, and give it to somebody?
Yes.
And it's money in the bank. Like there was a big issue around whether that was legitimate.
Right.
And then credit cards. Well, my parents never had credit cards. We didn't even know what that was. So then, my first plastic card is a credit card. And that's, like you said, that's a pretty close comparison. And then we had debit cards, banking cards. And now our banking cards are coded like a credit card. They have those 16 digits on there, just like a credit card. Right. So to me, this is just another stage of evolution. I could be wrong, but because of our conditioning and our programming, that's where the fear comes from and the skepticism comes from anything that's new or different, especially in the field of money. So those were just some thoughts that were coming up for me as you were talking. Back to you.
Those are excellent points. That's absolutely what it was. And it was a lot of economists, the investors, they had a very difficult time. Now, my attitude, when I did the paper in 2012, my attitude was I was skeptical because of the limited, and also I was thinking about corruption and other things too. And we will discuss that. But the other part was I really love that blockchain side of it, that the digital info, that was the way of future. And of course, now you see the commanding theme is artificial intelligence. You see how the world is completely changing. The movement of the information and data is just amazing. It has been exponential growth. So this is in the same lines. And also, you remember, we have, like you absolutely correct, with the new generations, they are people that basically adapting to these changes, and new generations, they really don't understand cash. So they are programmed. Everything is a microsecond, millisecond. Information has to be instantaneous. So things are done digitally. So they are more adaptable to these changes. And they are the ones who really driving this in a way. Started millennials, but now we have Gen Zs. And so, but let's talk about interest of time, talking about quickly, I will go why we have this. Go ahead.
We might have to have episode 2.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, one of the biggest things, and I've gone through this over the years, is the volatility. You can be a multimillionaire and then you can be broke. Not broke, but it's like this volatility has become a difficult side. So it can easily, you can make a lot of money. And then we go back to 2015, 2016. That's one of the things. The other thing is the regulatory risk. You have to remember, governments, how do they stay in business? They collect taxes. They are in control. They want to know what you're doing. You go to the bank, if you want to take $5,000 cash out, you have to go through the hoops. You're depositing $2,000 cash. Where is it coming from? So basically, is that control, which this was a solution for that. So a lot of governments, yes, they're open, but they also want to know your business. So that was the biggest scare in the United States, because a lot of, again, people did not want to get involved with this, because between the tax authorizations and the government itself, they wanted to know your business. So, but now again, maybe it's changing. That's why there's a lot of optimism.
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and/or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
The security concerns. There was a couple of things. I talked about wallets. There was an investor in Costa Rica. He could not Remember, there's the password you have to have in order to get to your wallet. There's this password, so he could not get in. So what do? There was $200 million worth of coins at that time. Or in Germany, somebody passed away and he had a wallet of Bitcoin. Nobody could get into that. So those were the risks as a coin holder, as a crypto. Those were the chances that you were thinking. So there's that securities, but also because remember, these are codings and there's always a fear of hacking. You every day I get a letter from one organization. It's a medical. Oh, sorry, we were hacked, and your information is out there. Is it
Ooh.
a credit card company? Is it your again medical insurance? Even in the United States, a few years ago, Equifax, which monitors your credit, they have all the information. They were hacked. The information is out there. So that's the risk you take when you have wallets, and that's what a lot of companies can be in trouble because of if they have large investments, as I said. So that was a big concern. The other thing is, as a financial analyst and as an investor myself, I have learned to analyze investments, and it's based on intrinsic value. You go to a house as a real estate investor. Well, you see there's four walls, a ceiling, there's a foundation. You put a value on it. You can touch it, you can feel it. There's a stock. Well, it's a company. You can see, well, how much profits they're making, how much, as far as the cost, what are they doing, how much debt do you have. With cryptocurrencies like a Bitcoin, you cannot really value on it. There's no valuation. How, as a traditional investor, I don't know how to value a Bitcoin. It's more of a speculation. Is the supply and demand. So you cannot. If today I came to you, well, how do you put a value? Um, Kathy Woods, which is a manager of ARC, and she's put $1 million value on Bitcoin. $1 million. She thinks within a few years we will get million. Somebody puts a $10,000 value. So that's a difficulty for me as a traditional investor. It's very difficult. The other thing I mentioned about mining, remember these machines, they are the one who do the coding. And a lot of these take tons of energy. It's very expensive. There were some of these mining machines that the whole city's energy was spent on them. So a lot of these miners, if you notice, there's a lot of these people who do create these coins, they mine coins because again, there's a lot of energy. It's gotten a lot more efficient these days. But a few years ago, they would go to the Middle East. You will see them in Kuwait. You will see them in Iran because energy is a lot cheaper. But then it affected the grid. I mean, it would affect the whole city's electricity because they were using so much. Because these codings, I don't know how familiar you're like when I do like computer programming and another thing, it takes a lot of data because while you're not there, they're constantly working and it takes a lot of energy. So that's another, as far as environmental side goes, as I said, they become more efficient. Well, how do you're using a lot of, again, power? Well, it has to come from somewhere. In China, is it coal? They have to use coal, or they have to use fossil oil, or there's all of the things are a big concern. And as I mentioned, like you just had an excellent question in the beginning, it is still a complex issue. It's very difficult. Like you said, if I have a cash, I can see it. I can say, okay, this is $10 or it's $100. I know how much the price of. With that, there's this complexity, and unfortunately, that's become a challenge. And the other part is a lot of manipulation can happen. We've had a lot of exchanges going out of business, and not long ago we had the FX. We've had the manipulation, but also again fraud. So there's a lot of these exchanges come in. There's been, it's getting a lot better. So there has to be happy balance between the regulation and also privacy. So The other thing I have to say is, again, there's a lot of potential. One of the fears, especially now we have rogue countries, for instance, you know, the countries that they love it the most is countries like in the Middle East, like Iraq, Iran, Russia, China. There's a lot of these countries that they're under sanctions, North Korea. So this way they're bypassing the central banks. They don't have to, declare anything. So there's a lot of trades going on like that. So one of the other concerns are, dirty money, for instance, whether it is from the drug cartels, or there has to be this happy balance. And like anything else, like technology in the right hand is amazing. When we think about atomic, into about the nuclear energy, it could provide the unbelievable things, whether it's in the medical or energy, or it could be an atomic bomb and destroy hundreds of thousands of people. So the same thing in robotics and AI, the same thing in the cryptocurrency. Like, because you have that privacy, you can actually bypass some of the laws and feed the rogue groups of people. That they can buy and sell things that are illegal, for instance. So those are the things we have to be careful, and that's the happy balance we have to. So still a complex, but it is something. As I mentioned, my first thing was blockchain is here forever because it's amazing technology. Now Bitcoin is finding its legs, especially again with these investments like ETFs coming, exchange traded funds, bringing so much liquidity that allows average investors now actually play that, and you can actually buy the investments that it was just very confusing in the past. And like anything else, theories are theories, but once you're in it, you see you're making money and losing money, then that allows you to really learn about it. Just a little tidbit just from our audience that they actually invest in Bitcoin right now. And again, there's Ethereum, there's quite a few other ones, but these are the two most liquid ones. Is the we do have, like, when it comes to stocks or gold, we have a law of round numbers. And generally when there's roundness, there is either it becomes your floor or support, or it becomes your resistance or ceiling. So a lot of times when you see something hits a round number, there's always this pause or hesitation. So for instance, for Bitcoin, nobody would have thought that Bitcoin will be 100,000. So when you hit like the 100,000 round number, whether it's emotional or usually there is a profit taking. DA hits 40,000, DA hits 30,000, gold hits 2,000, 2,500. There's always this hesitancy to push till somebody else comes and pushes it through. So, when we hit like 100,000, we take some profits, and that's what happened on Friday, for instance, because it was a round number. It came very fast. I shared this, so I'm okay to share it with our audience. On April 18th, one of our investors who was in the Bitcoin had bought it. And the beauty of, by the way, you can buy half of, if you're investing, you can have half a Bitcoin. You don't have to have the full investing in it, whatever the price is. Your broker allows you to do that. A lot of more brokers are into this, Tastyworks and Interactive Brokers, and as I mentioned, Coinbase. So there's a lot of brokers you can invest in Canada, in Europe, in the United States. But my thing was, the question was, do we have to take profits? And generally, when there's a halving, that means when every 4 years the supply gets in half, the markets generally move up 15% within a month, and then they settle down and move. In the past, they've moved quite a bit within next 12 to 18 months. So my idea was on April, it was in about 60,000. On April 18, I wrote back and I said, in my opinion, there will be a lot of volatility, you always to do money managements for our audience. Again, in investments, you take some profits so you can sleep at night, this, especially when you're investing in volatility. Not all of it. The way my philosophy is, I usually go all in. I invest in what I have really researched, and I take profits as I have my targets. So idea was once it's in 60,000, it will be pretty volatile. But my goal for 12 months on April 18th was 85,000. And that 85,000 hit just a few weeks ago, and son of a gun, it hit 100,000. I would have never thought we would hit it that quickly, because that was in pictures uh, for some of the pundits, that they thought, the ones that they really promote Bitcoin, they would think it would hit 100,000, but I didn't think it will happen that quickly. But again, there is euphoria, there is this excitement. There is that SEC is gonna, in the United States Security Exchange Commission, the person in charge will be friendly to Bitcoin. So there's a lot of positive enforcement. More companies are accepting it. JP Morgan, for instance, was very, very cautious and said, oh, this is a Ponzi scheme. Now they are on board. So there's a lot of people are coming on board. So again, we have this supply and demand. Now, our audience, maybe they've been always curious, and I say, well, maybe I should dabble in it. So again, there is this demand. So with demand, it pushes up the price. And as I said, there's like at least 20 to 25 exchange traded funds out there. As I said, there was like monopoly with GBTC. That was the only one. Now you have all these lower fees. Then you also have, as far as like the futures market, there's more coming. There are companies, there are blockchain funds. I mean, there's a lot of accessibility. So that creates liquidity. And with liquidity, you have more activities. So anyway, I took a long time. I just wanted to make sure there's, a little clarity, and I hope it was helpful. I don't know how much we explored, but I hope that was something our audience takes the takeaway, is at least a little more clear, feel more comfortable maybe investing in it, as long as they got the money management skills. That's very important. Don't be too greedy. So that's very important.
Well, no, that was awesome. And, I had an opportunity to invest way back in the day myself, and I didn't. And I went, no. But that was a lack of education, lack of information, not understanding. It was just a group of people here in Alberta who were investing and invited me to join. And I did not do that. But that was just because I didn't know any better at the time. And it was probably around 2012, 13 and around there.
Yeah.
So I think there's enough information that maybe down the road a little bit, we'll do another show and look at some other aspects of the new currencies that are coming up. And when you were talking about all the different companies now, that was like credit cards. The first company, Visa, that's the only credit card on the market. Now you have MasterCard, you have your Diners card, you have Capital One, you have all different kinds of companies.
American Express, yes. So,
tons of different choices, right? So thank you very much. I found that to be very informative. And generally, we'd be back together tomorrow for a show, but it's a travel day for me. So we'll see you next week. And thank you so much, Dr. Ramin, for all that valuable information. So everybody have a great day. Do your research. Kathy said she's going to need to re-listen to the show, and that would be a good idea, because you gave us a lot of great information.
No, I appreciate that. The bottom line is, whatever investment vehicle you use, have a discipline and have a plan. So don't fall for the emotions. So it's a lot of times because we have regrets, we have sorrows. Why didn't I buy? For our audience, I have to tell you, when I bought at 32, I sold it at 100, thinking I'm a genius because I tripled. And that was a big lesson for me in 2012, learning that, you have to manage in it, it's not like all or none. So I came up with completely different money management for my clients and myself. That yeah, it's great to make it 300%, but it's much better to make 10,000% too. So you have to have the exposure, but it's always good to take some profits, and that's not our uh, greed and emotion to take over, thinking that, oh, this is going to be fantastic and this is going to be the only investment I have, because the volatility is a big killer, and it happens when you need it the most, your money. So just have a sensible approach. So anyway, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody's patience, and I look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Brenda liked to drink red wine and smoke Marlboro Light. She kept the house real tidy in the kitchen every night. Her husband had a tendency of spending late nights at the bar, spent his entire paycheck, worn out and crashed the car. Well, Brenda got real sick of spending all her nights alone, so she packed her bags, wrote out a note saying, "This house ain't my home. You've been cheating, you've been lying, you've been drinking, I've been crying. I ain't gonna spend one more tear on you. I've done hurting, I'm done trying. You're still flirting, there's no denying all the stupid stuff you put me through. Well, you ain't messing with my heart no more." She left the cigarette in the ashtray and the wine spilled on the floor. Hey! 10 miles down the road, Brenda turned that car around. She needed some closure before she headed out of town. She knew where he'd be at by the charges on his car. She saw him doing shots with the tall blonde at the bar. They locked eyes and she prepared to give what he deserved. This would be the last time he would ever cheat on her. She said, "You've been cheating, you've been lying, you've been drinking, I've been crying. I ain't gonna spend one more tear on you. I'm done hurting, I'm done trying. You're still flirting, there's no denying all the stupid stuff you put me through. Well, you ain't messing with my heart no more." She left the cigarette in the ashtray and the wine spilled on the floor.